number 2, Josh, on this list is another team replacing their quarterback, and that's the Alabama Crimson Tide. Why FPI has them 1 and 2, I don't know, because I don't think either one of them will be in coaches or AP polls, or if I was doing a top 10, we wouldn't see them there. Obviously, the question marks for Alabama are, is it truly addition by subtraction by getting rid of the 2 coordinators? Because, year one, you're learning new schemes and getting that feel for the new coach. So growing pains still are going to be there, even if they're an upgrade. And obviously, you lose the number 1 pick in Bryce Young. You lose Will Anderson. There's a lot of new faces. Kick us off with Alabama.
With Alabama, I mean, it's got to start and end with a quarterback, right? So everybody in Alabama is going to say Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, somebody's going to step up and play well. You're going to see a lot of excuses on why Jalen Milroe struggled against Texas A&M. It's something I've thrown out some. But let's be real about that. If you toss the Texas A&M game, if you just look at what Jalen Milroe did in the other games he played, and he threw 34 passes in the rest of the season, he was 19 of 34 for 186 yards. That's 56% passing, 5.47 yards per attempt. That's a miserable number. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, would have a QB rating of 109.5. Again, outside of the Texas A&M game, that would not be in the top 100 of quarterbacks in the country. Robbie Ashford's quarterback rating last year for Auburn was 107, and he was last in the SEC. So, I mean, people at Alabama are saying, well, why do we want Tyler Buchner? He struggled last year. His quarterback rating was 121, and that was struggling. It was still better than what Jalen Milroe did in relief against inferior competition in games where things were already way out of hand. So, I don't know how much you fix that by bringing in an offensive coordinator that led a team that was 60th in the country in total offense last year at Notre Dame. It's a concern. Alabama has to have better quarterback play, and even ignore that A&M meltdown where they, more than anything, he fumbled the ball a bunch. If they get that kind of passing production, nothing else is going to matter. This isn't going to be a team that finishes in the top 5 if they can't pass the ball better than that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with Jalen Milroe, everybody sees the potential there with his athleticism and the fact that he will throw a beautiful dime and it looks great. The consistency's not there. So for all the wow superhero plays you see, he's not moving the ball consistently down the field, and that's why Georgia had an elite offense last year. We talk about this all the time. Georgia moved the ball methodically. You couldn't get them into a 3-and-out situation. You couldn't get them off the field. That's a lot more deadly than a guy that even hits 3 or 4 bombs a game and for touchdowns, because good grinding offense is a lot better than it helps out your defense too. I do get the sense that, the Nick Saban interview with Josh Pate earlier this year, they're moving to a little more murder ball, which does benefit Milroe not having to make specific reads, specific throws, and kind of sets things up that might be more in his skill set. And Ty Simpson might be the guy too. But again, we're talking about number 1, number 2, number 3 team in the country, this highly ranked with all these question marks at quarterback, which is a pretty big position. But Josh, Alabama's also got some question marks on the defensive side of the ball. Terry Arnold, everybody thinks he's going to make that next step on the outside, but that's another thing that you're having to assume and you don't necessarily know. Henry To'oTo'o, who wasn't super great for Alabama last year, still had a lot of tackles. He's gone in the middle. Will Anderson's gone. So defensively, there's also some concerns.
Yeah, Byron Young was probably the best defensive lineman for Alabama. Obviously, Will Anderson was sort of the unstoppable force on the edge. And it's easy to say these young players will step up and be better, but there's a reason they weren't starting last year. And it's concerning that that was a defense that really folded down the stretch. And I would really emphasize last preseason, the thing that I said was going to kill Alabama if they weren't going to be in a position to make the playoffs was going to be basically their size and physicality in the interior. I was 100% right. Now, they lost a lineman in Ebigbe that may be coming back for Alabama, so nobody quite knows what they're going to get, and I think he might have been their best lineman before he got hurt. But the fact remains that Alabama could not stop the run when it mattered. The Ole Miss game, especially the Auburn game where they gave up, I think, over 300 yards rushing, those are the games that killed Alabama down the stretch. It was the collapse of the Alabama run defense. And without Anderson and without Young, it's a bit of a reach to say they're going to improve. Maybe they do. Maybe the mentality changes. Maybe defensive coordinator matters. but you got to be concerned about their ability to just play physical football. Because, yeah, they may want to be murder ball. They may want to go back to running the football. You can't play murder ball on defense unless you got the horses to run it. And I'm not really sure they've got the beef on defense to play that kind of football and to be what Georgia is in the last few years. It's not proven, and no amount of mentality change is going to fix that unless they got the personnel. So that's something that definitely remains to be seen.
And I do think, a lot of our negatives will have a kind of a reflection that turns it into a positive. I do think that defense is going to be better. I think Kevin Steele, when he was at Auburn, he showed that he could really slow down RPO and modern offenses. So I do think they'll take that next step. But again, like Ohio State, who I also think will take a next step defensively, you can't just count on it. Just like you don't count on incoming freshman production, you can't assume it.